Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Peter Martin. Alan Ruff, Tam McManus, Alison McConnell are here with me, ready to engage with you as well. Hit the subscribe button, and if you download the PLZ Soccer app, you'll get all the latest breaking football news as well. So, with that in mind, there's lots to talk about after a weekend of fixtures in the Scottish Premiership. We'll look at some of the results from the FA Cup and some of the games from the lower leagues in Scotland as well. You can post your opinion on our feed, and let's not forget in the app there's a submission section as well for you to drop us an email or two. We always like to read out more than a few of your opinions there as well, from near and far. Thank you to so many of you for all committing and supporting us. As far as this week's concerned, we've got a fantastic competition. We did indeed promise you that we'd be giving away more than a few items in the forthcoming weeks of the new year of 2023. And here's the first one.
This is your chance to win this replica Rangers jersey from the 2021-22 season, along with the matchday programme from the Europa League final against Eintracht Frankfurt. To win this fantastic prize, all you have to do is answer this simple question. Which Rangers player scored in the 2022 Europa League final? Post your answer in the comments section below. If you want to double your chances of winning, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Good luck.
Don't be telling anybody. Yeah, don't be telling anybody.
No, Ruffy doesn't know that.
Well, I was going to say to you, the last thing we need is anybody giving away the answer to the competition. We'll be running it all this week. Great to have Tam with me now, a regular on a Saturday as well. That's the commitment for you, Ali. Tam in the studio. Some people didn't want to be here because they were hobnobbing.
Some people were just sitting watching their cooking coming up in the last minute.
Absolutely.
Alan.
Yeah, so thank you to everybody who's got involved in the competition already. We are going to be throwing that out on our Facebook as well. So hi to Niall, hi to Lee, hi to Paul as well, who've been joining us, Philip Russell, Bob Miller, Gregor, as well as Hugh and Joseph. There's lots of people who join us on a regular basis, and we're absolutely delighted you're doing that, and thank you for posting the answer. We'll give you the competition all this week and eventually announce the winner next Monday on the show, when we'll start a new competition. So we're going to be giving away a lot of things, and if you want a double chance to win in the competition, then all you have to do is hit the subscribe button. It's as simple as that. So that will double your chances of winning. If you don't get the chance to answer it, hit the subscribe button and you're in the hat as well. Simple as that. But I'm looking right now, and I'll tell you right now, there's a lot of people who are posting the correct answer for the comp. Well done. Okay, let's cut to the chase. We'll do our little quiz question, our little teaser a little later on, but here's a look at the Premiership results over the weekends of Saturday and Sunday. Aberdeen 2, St Johnstone 0. Celtic defeating Kilmarnock by a similar scoreline, and it was Tuesday up again. Livingston winning at Dingwall against Ross County. St Mirren and Hearts, you couldn't separate them, 1-1. And in the end, Hibs get that win that they craved, 3-2 against Motherwell at Fir Park. And then Rangers 2-0 up there at Tannadice against Dundee United. What do you make of the Rangers game, Ruffy?
Yeah, I thought they won quite comfortably in the end. I think the first half I thought they were a bit sloppy, but after that the first goal gave them the confidence and the second goal just sealed it, and after that they just run away quite easy winners. I think Rangers and Celtic are now drawn away for everybody else. It's the usual 26-30 points of a difference at the end of the season. I think it'll be even more. I think I said that at the beginning of the season. I think all the other teams are showing no consistency whatsoever, and it's going to be a two-tier league.
Yeah, okay, all right, barrel of laughs he is to start us all off. But I have to say though, Tam, for that first 45 minutes, again, Dundee United, nice crisp passing, but in that second half, they dithered at one point on the halfway line. Instead of looking for that forward pass, in the end, they dithered on the halfway line, gave the ball away, and Rangers got a great goal from Sakala.
Yeah, it was a fantastic goal actually. I think he's a player that doesn't want a lot of time to think about it, and I think that's why he stuck it away nicely. He went through and great finish, touch and finish, and put it away. But I thought Rangers were poor in the first half. I thought Dundee United had a few chances. I thought the boy Smith right before half time goes through and probably should score. It was a great opportunity. We'll obviously speak about the handball, but
I think at half-time Michael Beale went in and get in amongst a few. I think he got in amongst them and let them know that it wasn't good enough. So I think the Rangers were excellent, ran out comfortable win in the second half.
Yeah, handball, Connor Golson, never too far away from a decision. Was it worthy of a look? Was it a penalty?
I think both. I certainly think it was worthy of a look, and I think you've certainly seen them given, particularly since the introduction of VAR, when anything that seems to strike your hand has been given. I would agree a lot with what Ange Postecoglou had said on Friday in terms of the ambiguity and the interpretation of the handball rule. I think it's incredibly ambiguous at the minute, and it does seem to come down to very much the call of the referee and his interpretation of it rather than a hard and fast rule. But certainly I thought, minimum wise, you would be looking at the referee to maybe take a second look at it.
This is the point on it. There's a difference between is it a penalty and interpretation, and then is it worthy of a look, Ruffy. I must admit, if I was suddenly, penalised for a penalty for that, I'd be well hacked off, because I don't know where Connor Golson, I certainly don't think he knows it's coming towards him, and the ball in amongst a ruck of players, and his hand is out. And in some cases, people are saying, well, what about the consistency? But my God, if he pointed to the spot or even went to look and then pointed to the spot, I'd have been well hacked off.
Yeah, I would agree with that. My view on it. I certainly wouldn't have given a penalty for it. I think it's a cheap penalty. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of teams are now looking for it. You can see the players run about the referee wanting another look at it, whether it's hit him or not hit him or whatever. And I think it's an easy way to get back into the game. I think they have to look at the rule at the end of the season. I think they are beginning to tidy it up a wee bit. But like Alison said, if you're going to give it with other things, you've got to have a look at it. You've got to keep everybody on board, show the consistency. Yeah, we're going to have a look at it, and then once you have a look at it, just decide it's not a penalty.
Okay, penalty?
I don't think it was, no. I agree with you. I think if you get that against you, you're raging it. It just dips over a boy's head at the last minute and just hits him. I don't think he's even looking at the ball. So, but there's probably other games this season where it has been a penalty. So that's where we're talking about the consistency of it, and that's why fans are getting upset. It's not what it seems to be one rule for one and one for the other, and that's not good enough for VAR here.
Yep, it's one that's certainly got everybody talking about. Ian says it's never a penalty, and then you could just actually go back down 50 or 60 elsewhere saying it isn't, what about this one, what about that one. But I must admit, and a lot of people, and this is the how do you expect, says Matt, the people in the chat to know the rules if the pundits don't even bother looking up the rules? Well, Matt, just to set the record straight for you, everybody's well aware of the rules. I was present at the explanation of not only the technology but the rule on the handball and the rules that would be interpreted by referees out at the VAR offices in the Easterhouse. That doesn't seem to be the issue, Matt. It's actually how they're being interpreted from week to week, and suddenly one that would seem like a penalty, one that's not a penalty, is suddenly given. This is the point on it all. It's not a case of people don't understand the rules. It's how they're being implemented that's causing managers and players a lot of anxiety and anger.
Yeah, I think it comes down to inconsistency week by week and game by game. I think you're seeing in some instances a penalty given when you're scratching your head and you're thinking, where on earth is a penalty call for that? And I think there's been a couple of really obvious examples of that. I think the Matt O'Reilly one at Celtic Park, I don't think anyone that we came into contact with would have given that as a penalty. Then you're seeing others that seem very unambiguous, that don't seem to be cited or don't seem to warrant a second look. And I think what VAR has done is highlighted that inconsistency across the board, and I think there is a question mark over the standard of officiating within the top level of the Scottish game, and I think that would probably be reflected in the fact that you have very few Scottish referees now who represent the country at significant tournaments. I think we've spoken about this before, that I think Scotland really lags behind. I think you need to look at full-time referees to try and raise the standard of officiating.
Yeah, whether you get the money for that's another matter.
One of the talks we had on Friday was before the games was there's enough people from officialdom coming on and telling us you know, why that rule was given. And I was listening at the weekend, I don't know if you saw it, Kenny Clark was on BBC, and Kenny's a good guy. I really like Kenny and everything he says, but as soon as he came on the show to talk about it, he said the first thing before we start this conversation is I can't comment on any individual cases. You know,
why get him on?
Exactly, you know, I mean, why come on a show if you can't explain individual cases? It was just a silly appointment.
We've had pundits on who didn't want to give an opinion, Ruffy, and we gave them short shrift.
Yeah.
Why come on if you can't open your gob and tell us what you think? You know, and I honestly, I mean, Friday was one of the things we were discussing, Tam. I think that there will be a need for, if you want transparency, why the VAR come out and say why they didn't look at it, and then the referee's explanation of how he interpreted it. I think we've got to get to that point. If you're going to get the fallout and the madness that we all predicted was going to happen once VAR was involved in a Rangers Celtic game, I mean that's really the catalyst for the mayhem that's ensued.
Yeah,
as soon as it's a big game, they're all into it.
Yeah, it hasn't been too bad until that handball for Goldson, and it's just exploded over the last week, hasn't it?
Yeah.
We spoke about in the show last week, I would like the referees to be mic'd up, and you can hear the communication from the referee to the VAR. I think they do it in Australia, they do it in rugby, you know, for the time out, and they have a look at it, and I think we could do that in this country. I don't think it's going to be in this season, but
yeah, I know. I'm not even looking at her. I know why she's laughing. You know, I've got 2-1.
You can only imagine the players speaking to the referee, but I think that's got to come in at some point. I think that would be open and transparent. Everybody could be able to hear why the referee gave the decision, why the VARs give the decision. And I think that'd be great if the referee was mic'd up and the VAR was mic'd up.
Adds to the entertainment value. I think one of my highlights of COVID was you could hear so much on the pitch because the stadium was empty. That was some of my best afternoons.
There's some good shouts.
I was going to say because Neil Lennon was an act on his own trackside. But that point is, you know, you want to be able to hear it. It happens in rugby. Why can't we embrace it? You know, that you hear from the VAR immediately, you hear from the referee. I mean, I remember when it first started out where they actually, not for VAR, but in the, I think it might have been the late 80s, early 90s, in fact maybe the 90s, where they mic'd up the referee but forgot to tell Tony Adams of Arsenal, and he was absolutely giving the referee pelters, effing and being his way through the game. But you know, apart from the fact you're going to get choice language, then I think we've got to get to that point.
I think even if you can't quite get there now with the technology, or there are elements of caution on the official side for whatever reason, I think at least maybe invite some media into the VAR room for a weekend, come in and see, this is how we make the decision, this is what happens. You can hear the dialogue coming back. Like, invite people to go in and have an explanation of how it works, like how
we've been in
real time in a real game situation. I'm talking on a Saturday afternoon or whatever, and you can see why decisions are made or why things are called back. Like, there's an element then of transparency that will come.
Can I clear that Kenny Clark thing up?
Kenny just takes you there.
No, it wasn't Kenny that came on and said he couldn't talk about it. His bosses had told him if he goes on the show, he can't talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay, just in case.
No, but it's still, you're still getting to the same outcome.
Yeah, I know.
You don't get the opinion on it, you know, because.
But in all fairness, he told him that his bosses had said he couldn't talk about individuals.
Yeah, okay.
So it wasn't him going on and saying that.
I don't know if you can hear it on the feed here, but that's something back in the car up. Any chance?
The colour just drained to his face.
Yeah, because
after you
exactly in his legal profession. But listen, you want to get to the right decision, but you want to know why they've made the decision not to look at something, or indeed to look at it, or indeed to come to a decision where they've a penalty, an offside or whatever that's fairly contentious. In a case of mistaken identity, these things are all part of it. And Martin says, Peter, the refs will never explain decisions, as in some occasions there is no explanation as the decision is so bad. Martin, I cannot disagree with you. There are some which have left us all bemused down through the years of refereeing, but I would suggest to you right now, guys, that sometimes we harp on about those great days of technically gifted players. We were talking about the early 2000s when Rangers had just an amazing amount of quality players. Celtic had Martin O'Neill's side. There was a lot of money being spent, and some other clubs had some really gifted players, but we also had some really good referees who were at the top of their game and constantly being selected at UEFA. We don't have that now.
I think that's the key. When you're saying they were being selected for very high profile games, for Champions League games, for international games, for major tournaments, I think that's a very accurate barometer of the standard that you have across the board. And I think when you don't have that, when you're not being recognised in that level, I think you have to say, well, where have other countries accelerated the progress of officialing? How have they done it? What are they doing? And how can we raise the standard? Yeah,
the other thing about the game on Sunday between Dundee United and Rangers, it's amazing what a manager can do just by putting an arm round a player and saying, you know, listen, you're in, you've got the jersey, go out there and do it. And Fashion Sakala looks a different player.
Yeah, he does. I thought he was excellent in Old Firm game. I thought he looked lively. He's got great pace, great energy. You know, anything over the top, he's onto it. I don't think he's a forward who wants a lot of time to think about it. I think the more time he's got, the worse he's going to get in terms of finishing. So that's why that instinct to finish, ball over the top, took a touch, bang, great finish. He had no time to think about it, and he looks a player revitalised under the new manager. He looked as if he was probably on his way out. Under Van Bronckhorst, wasn't really playing, but he looks apart at the minute.
Yeah, and Michael Beale, the Rangers manager, is well happy with the way the team is going, although it's very much in the embryonic stages of what he wants to do at Rangers. But he's been drawing comparisons with where he wants them to go to.
And Malik, they were the two players at half-time I was getting into the most, because I felt we was a bit static on the right side. I wanted them to move more and free up Tavernier, and they did that for both goals. Obviously, Tav goes on a nice run for the second goal. They were two good goals. They were exactly what we spoke about at half-time. We're not Real Madrid just yet, but we're moving in the right direction.
Okay. I think if they get to that level, Ruffy, he's signed a fair few quality players.
Yeah, but he's saying all the right things. He's saying the right things that the supporters want to hear. You know, we're talking to 4 or 5 players, and you know, at this stage of the season, that's what supporters want to hear. They're winning games, which they regularly now, which they weren't doing before. So yeah, he's got every right to say what he's saying.
Well, we're led to believe that there's a couple coming in this week. The press are speculating it could be Todd Cantwell and Tom Davis, who are two young players that, you know, I like Cantwell.
Tom Davis at Everton.
Yep. If he brought those two in, I think Rangers fans have every right to be excited by that.
Yeah, I think both have showed up well for the clubs in the Premier League. I know Norwich are now in the Championship, but yeah, I think both at a good age, you know, hungry players to come up the road, good quality. I think they'd be good signings for Rangers. I think they need the energy and legs in the middle of the pitch. You know, Lundstrom, Jack, Arfield, Davis. You know, I think you need somebody with a wee bit more energy in there, and I think Cantwell and Davis would be two good signings for Rangers. He's obviously speaking to people, you know, as we speak, and he's trying to get them in. So I think if Rangers can get 2 or 3 quality players in, then the fans will be delighted.
As far as Liam Fox is concerned, they were 7 points from 9 going into that game against Rangers. Didn't quite work out, but then again, I think the Dundee United manager is quick to point out it's very much a free hit when you come up against the quality of Rangers.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Listen, our season will not be defined about today's result. We've still got some big games to come. I feel like we've still made progress. We've still got a long way to go, and that's probably just a wee reminder of that. We've still got a long way to go, so we need to take our medicine today, and then we get back to work for what's another big game next week.
I thought United in spells showed some good touches, Ruffy.
Yeah, they just seem to. I mean, I know Fridge were up front, but they just needed that spark, and that spark's getting a goal. Particularly at home, you know, and as we know, you know, it doesn't matter who you are. If you get that goal and you get everybody behind you, it keeps you in the game. But the 2 goals that they lost, you know, back to back, it was just a blow to them, and they never ever recovered from it. But from that good run they've had, they're still in a dangerous position. They've still got to win games, and they've got to win games against these teams that are run about them.
Okay, so it was Dundee United 0, Rangers 2. We've just discussed that. We've heard from both managers. There's more managers and players to comment on the way. This is, of course, the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel, and thank you for joining us, and hit the subscribe button if you've got time. We've got a competition running, and we might give you a little chance to see it again a little later on. And thank you to so many of you who are joining us and hitting the subscribe button. Keith Fife has just said, afternoon PLZ Soccer. It's 20 past. I mean, you need to get a grip of yourself, Keith. We've started, we're 20 minutes into it, and we've already had, Ruffy saying something and then retracting it and backpedaling frantically in case he was up in court. So that's the type of thing that's happening on this show on a regular basis. And I have to say, Tam and I thoroughly enjoyed the first of what we hope will be many Saturday shows. The banter was magnificent. We had reports coming in from the grounds. Thoroughly enjoyed it, Tam.
Yeah, it was. It was great to see the scores coming in, and obviously you had Kerry and Adam out there at the games, so I really enjoyed it, and hopefully it's going to get bigger and better every Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. There you are. You hold on to that. Bang. And also, Hugh Scott says, Peter, if I hear one more person say how good Stephen Fletcher is at holding the ball up, I want my striker to be able to score goals more than hold the ball up. Well, I mean, Stephen Fletcher at times, that's a quality in itself, Ali, I have to say. I mean, I thought he did all right in the game.
Yeah, I think I can see both sides, but of course you want him to be in and scoring goals, but he also has to get the service required to be able to do that, and a big part of that is holding the ball up to bring others into play. I think it's very much a sense of the cohesion between middle to front when you identify that particular role that he plays for Dundee United. I think it can be quite thankless on a day like yesterday, when Rangers had so much of the ball, and I think you suspected that if Dundee United were going to take anything, they probably had to take it in the first half, but Rangers were fairly pedestrian in the first 45 minutes, and you anticipated that they would step it up a bit after the break. I think you maybe wanted to see a bit more from them in the opening half and exploit any kind of lethargy that Rangers displayed. But I think Stephen Fletcher's done all right for Dundee United so far. I think it's been a very difficult season for them. I would agree with Ruffy. I don't think by any means they're out of that danger area at the bottom. I know they've put together a decent sequence of results prior to yesterday, but I think they're still very much in the mix. But I think Motherwell too look as though they could definitely be dragged into that just now. Yeah,
we're going to get on to Motherwell in a couple of seconds. As far as Saturday was concerned, well, the gauntlet was thrown down by Celtic towards Rangers when they extended their advantage to 12 points. Celtic defeating Kilmarnock by 2-0. It was 2 going on, 6, 7, 8?
Yeah, I mean, you've seen the highlights. Celtic hit the bar a number of times, had plenty of chances. I think Kilmarnock delighted to get out of there with a 2-0. I don't think, Derek spoke about it after the game, didn't want to take a tanking before the semi-final. The confidence would have been shattered. So they've come out of Celtic Park with their pride intact. They were competitive in the game, but Celtic will be looking to take some of those chances in the semi-final and put Kilmarnock to bed. But a comfortable win for Celtic, and they just keep motoring on.
Yeah, Ange Postecoglou. I don't think he's too bothered that he's facing the same team next week as well.
Going to Hampden is always a special occasion, and for us, I know it's a bit unusual you're playing the same opponent, but I don't think it's going to detract from the build-up or the excitement around the fixture. I think for both clubs, you know that it's a special occasion. You step away from a cup final.
Yeah, and I think that's the key to this. Obviously, is Celtic will be trying to win the treble, Ruffy, and they're coming up against Killie for a place in the final, and they just look as if it's going to take something special to stop them at times.
Yeah, I mean, Tam summed it up there. Derek said, he couldn't afford to leave, hanging a hammer on with that game, and he set his stall out accordingly. In the first half, they were stubborn to a man. They did their job, but eventually, when I keep saying this every Monday, if you've got 80% of a game and you're having 20 shots at goal, and 10 of them are on target, you're going to win games, because eventually one of them is going to hit the back of the net, and that's what happens with Celtic. They just continue, doesn't matter whether it's 15 minutes to go, 10 minutes to go, they keep creating chances, hitting the post, hitting the bar, goalkeepers, opposition goalkeepers making great saves. It just tells you one thing: eventually they're going to win.
Interestingly enough, Derek McInnes was fulsome in his praise of Ange Postecoglou's side.
Played against various Celtic teams over the years, maybe none as good as this one, to be honest. So we knew we'd have to be very good to try and keep all those different threats at bay, and I thought we were. It's a reminder to us ahead of next week that, you know, that concentration. Players will be looking at the clock as well. That concentration's got to be there.
Well, the big problem for Derek McInnes is, he reckons this is one of the best Celtic sides he's faced, so he's got to come up with some kind of plan that doesn't involve the same outcome as the weekend.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll maybe be looking back to teams that have been successful in stopping Celtic playing and stopping them get a grip of the game. I think maybe he'll go back and do his homework from that St Mirren game and look and do what he can to restrict the space that Celtic have got on a fairly big pitch. I think in some ways it's a free hit. I think Kilmarnock aren't judged on what they're going to do this weekend. I think it's all about their league position, about staying in the top flight. Celtic really are the team that go into it under pressure. They're the one that are expected to go through and force their way towards another treble. I think Kilmarnock will just try and nullify how they play. They'll want to keep it tight for as long as possible. And I think ideally, if Celtic get a grip of the game early, that's when you're in danger of it running away from you. I think they'll just try and keep it tight for as long as possible.
Yeah, interestingly enough, everybody talks about, the Rangers game, which again, everybody's talking going into that. If Rangers get this high press, force Celtic into mistakes, then the high press and trying to at least impose yourself at some points on Celtic, it's difficult to do. So if plan A and plan B is not working, is plan C, Tam, well, why don't we just go route one and see if you can get second balls and see if you can get out that way?
Yeah, I don't think Kilmarnock are going to play a high press against Celtic at Hampden. I think that they'll just sit in. They're done at Parkhead. They'll sit in defensively, and they'll play for set pieces. They might bring. I don't know if Christian Doy's cup tied or who's allowed to play, was obviously on loan from Hibs. I don't know who they'll play up front. Maybe Vassell, who played at the weekend. So, listen, I don't think it matters really. I think Celtic will win the game comfortably. Ultimately, it doesn't matter what Kilmarnock's system they play, whether that's 5 across the back or high press, whatever. I think Celtic got just a better team with better players, and I think on the night they'll be too strong for Kilmarnock.
Yeah, and if Rangers are looking to bring in players, of course, Ange Postecoglou's brought in 3 in double quick time, Ruffy, but there's a couple that we reckon are going out. There's already speculation that Juranovic could be on his way to Monza in Serie A. With a loan deal in possibly £7 million. We're not quite sure what the figure is, but £7 million looks as if Charlie Adams set that.
I think I said 7 or 8.
Yeah,
I think so.
So he could be off. Giakoumakis, 5 clubs in the hunt apparently for him, and Cho Gu-sung, I think, is back in the running to be coming into Celtic. So you can tell he wants all that transfer activity done as quickly as possible.
Well, if Giakoumakis is leaving, they need somebody ready to come in. I think there's too much at stake now to just go with Kyogo. I think you need a backup. You've seen that Ange likes to give everybody a shot, whether it's 20 minutes for the end, 15 minutes for the end, and you've got to have somebody able enough with quality to come on. And if Kyogo's not playing well, you get another striker. But I think that there's a lot of the clubs now, the players need to go before other players come in. But the one big difference for Celtic and everybody else is they're spending money.
Yeah, Ronnie Porter says Kelly will park the bus and still get hammered. I mean, listen, the great... And there's so many people talking about the transfer fees, 25 million that was reportedly fired out there last week. I love the whole banter of going into a pub alley and, that he's worth 10 million, no, he's worth 20 million. It's if you can get enough clubs interested, and then you can start to hike up the fees on certain people. If anything, Juranovic's fee, I think, has been inflated because he had a good World Cup.
Absolutely, I thought he showed up particularly well at the World Cup. Thought he had a very solid tournament, fairly impressive. I think it was on the cards even before he was going that there would be a move in the January window. I think it's fairly clear, and I think it makes sense for him to go now and Celtic can bank the money. I do think £7 million is probably less than what Celtic might have anticipated. I think they might have fancied that they could get.
We don't have that.
Resell on a 20.
Yeah, we don't have that. Yeah, exactly. We don't have that fee yet. I mean, listen, if it's speculation on 25 and it's speculation on 7, I mean, sometimes, and as you've witnessed and I've witnessed on many an occasion, sometimes clubs just tell porkies on what they're getting and what he's worth and whatever, you name it. If he's going out the door, sometimes they inflate it. This is fantastic, you know, or if they're buying someone in, they say we've paid a huge fee for this guy.
Yeah, I think.
Wee bit of kidology. Okay.
But I think Celtic have got his replacement there. He's already in. He's Alistair Johnson's been a seamless transition into the right back there. So I think Celtic are covered. I think the biggest surprise would be if Juranovic was still at the club when the window closed, and I think that looks highly unlikely. I think the Giakoumakis one is more interesting. I'm not sure that Celtic can afford to sell him just now. I think he offers something different. I think he's busy when he comes on. I think Celtic look livelier when he's in the frame and in the picture. I think he's come on and injected a bit of energy into some games this season.
Sometimes you're not aware of the facts though, because you get if you read between the lines more often than not, here is a player and his agent who may well have been in discussions and promised something that they're not quite happy with what they're getting.
Well, that's certainly what we would surmise at the minute.
So I think it's a case of I want out, and you know the last thing you want is a player in there who's not happy.
If he's on half the money that some of the guys are on.
I mean, Celtic have been bringing in players who weren't on great amounts of money, and once you've been in a year and you find out you're doing particularly well, and you also find out that there are people getting 2 or 3 times as much as you're getting, you know, with your agent with that kind of advice, then you start forcing it a wee bit, and that seems to be what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's kick on to your boys. 3-2, 3-1. You were ecstatic because you're going to pick up 5 points in the predictor.
Went too soon, didn't I?
Boy, was I happy when that mother will go in, but nevertheless, it's a win for him, and boy, did he need it.
Yeah, it did. It's great to actually speak positively about Hibs because it seems to be every week I seem to be bashing them over the head, but I thought it was a very good performance. I thought from early in the game they looked the dominant team, they controlled the game, they created chances. Nisbet, tremendous hat-trick. You know, he looks a completely transformed player since coming back from injury. He looks leaner, he looks quicker, stronger, he looks hungry. I think that could be the making of him, that injury. I think he's come back a far better player, and he's getting service from Aidan McGeady now as well, you know, and I thought Aidan was very good as well. So I think when you've got the 2 guys in your team, and unfortunately you've not got Boyle, I think the front 3 would have been excellent. Johan, frustrating player at times, but I think he's set up a number of goals this season for Hibs, so his numbers are decent in terms of assists. So no, I think that Hibs completely deserved to win the game, but I think if it went another 5 minutes, Motherwell might have scored because some of the substitutions that the manager brought on weren't great, and they got away with it at the end. It could have been 3 each, so I think he's got a lot of work to do defensively still. He's got to bring players in, but going forward I thought Hibs looked a real threat. Yeah,
it's always good to hear what the Hibs manager's take on the game is.
I think so, listen, and that was the risk. We had a high IQ today, there was no doubt in that, you know. We had more composure on the pitch, we had more gravitas, but lacked a little bit of trust in the lungs, if you know what I mean, and that's always the $1 million question. I went for it in this game because I wanted to try and go 1-2 up and then potentially hold it, and it worked nicely today.
I always love him in a press conference, Ali, because it's very rare you get a manager saying the players had a high IQ, but he's comedy gold at times.
Yeah, I think he gives you a line. I think he talks well at times, but he desperately needed that win. He needed to alleviate some of the pressure that he's been under. I would agree. I think Aidan McGeady could be quite a significant signing between now and the end of the season. I think Kevin Nisbet looks a better player since coming back from injury. He looks hungry, but defensively I think there's still big question marks over Hibs.
This was Aidan McGeady that quite a few people who are on our feed said was a dud. Just thought I'd fire that. I can't resist, by you need a noise up, don't you? But he I was impressed with him. I'll tell you who I also was impressed with, Ruffy. I thought David Marshall pulled out a top drawer
I was
save.
just going to say that. I says at the end of the day, Hibs deserved the win, but the turning point for me was the David Marshall save. I think that if that had went in, Motherwell's backs would have been up, you know, and it'd have been a different game altogether. I thought the Motherwell defending for two the goals was really poor, but apart from that, goalkeepers make big saves and they help their team win, and I thought that was a good save.
Yeah, Motherwell manager Stephen Hamill agrees with you 100%, Ruffy.
Yeah, we speak about like style and formation and information that we give the players. I don't think that's the problem, and I don't think that's why we're conceding goals. It's not doing the basics well in terms of defending across. Like you say, you don't need to be an expert to see that the goals we've gave away today are just basic fundamental mistakes.
I mean, the first goal from Nisbet was absolutely dire.
It's just a cross into a bog standard cross into the box, and he's got acres of space to take a touch and finish. It's unacceptable from a Motherwell point of view. And Nisbet gets across. I think it's Lamy for his hat trick. You know, great finish as well. So I thought Motherwell were dreadful at the back. I thought they were really poor, and he's got to sort that out. You know, he's got to get a striker in. He's got to sort that back line out, or else they're going to get sucked into that relegation. You know, bottom two.
Yeah, okay. Aberdeen 2, St Johnstone 0. And we might as well throw our quiz question in because we've got a good half hour still for you to answer it. But Aberdeen are taking on Rangers, and I have to say, which Scottish player scored the winner the last time these two sides met in a League Cup tie? Now that's a wee test for you guys. The last time Aberdeen and Rangers locked horns in a League Cup game, it was a Scottish player who scored the winner.
Answer.
I think
You do?
I think I know as well. Is that a wee while ago, isn't it?
Yes, a wee while ago.
I think I know who it is.
Okay, there you are. And that look of a rabbit as the headlights are coming towards it.
Steam coming out of Alison's ears there.
I think tells me you're like me at times. I don't have a Scooby, so let's move on. Okay, if you know the answer, then fire out the name of that Scottish player, and we'll also, before the end, give you a chance to post your answer to our competition to win the Rangers replica top and the Europa League final programme, Rangers against Eintracht Frankfurt. So with that in mind, let's talk positively about Aberdeen, because once again Duke Lopez come up with a double. He could have had a hat-trick. He had one chalked off, Ruffy, and Aberdeen get the win.
Yeah, he's been knocking at the door last 2 or 3 games. I mean, Aberdeen have been forcing the game in most of their games, particularly at home, and he's been the one that's been there or thereabouts, and he's certainly a live wire. Partick Thistle played them in the cup there, and he just destroyed us pace-wise, you know, and that's what he's got. And I'm sure Jim Goodwin at one stage was standing watching that game going, here we go again. You know, total dominance, chances, and not putting the ball away, but you could see the relief when the first one went in. The whole place just about erupted, you know, and that's just frustration over the last 2 or 3 weeks that they haven't been getting that goal. Yeah,
I think Graham Shinnie's a great signing for him. I think he will add a wee bit of experience and calm head, and of course he can pass the ball and control it.
Yep, I think he'll be a good signing for them. I think he's a leader. You know what you're getting as well. You know, he knows the league, he knows the area, he knows the club. I think it's a real inspired bit of business for Jim Goodwin. I thought Duke looked lively. Miofsky could have had a couple of goals as well. We went through a couple of times and probably should have scored, but I think Duke, he's got that pace in behind, as Ruffy says, and that terrifies defences. You know, anything over the top he was onto, and he took his goals well as well. So that was a big result for Aberdeen, but well deserved.
Yeah, it's amazing actually, Ali, how you get a situation where 1 week it fluctuates from the misery of Aberdeen are not doing well. St Johnstone are suddenly 4 games without a win. You know, you're looking at Hearts all talking about finishing third, and then Hibs. You know, we've had a dismal run. People looking at the manager and questioning it. 1 win and suddenly things can change.
I think that area is so congested. I think from third all the way down, there's just nothing between teams, and I think that's the danger and the attraction. I think it's a danger if you go on a run like St Johnstone are just now, 4 games without a win, that you're sliding down rapidly. And the converse of that is that if you get a win, as Aberdeen did at the weekend, then it's sort of damage limitation. You're not too far out of keeping pace with that third spot. But I think what it does is just illuminate how inconsistent everyone has been once you take out Celtic and Rangers.
Yeah, and of course, We did mention it, Ruffy, on Friday. Toby Civic, don't get into a press conference and start talking about splitting Celtic and Rangers and then draw one each at St Mirren.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to say some positive things in an interview, but sometimes you take it too far.
Yeah.
And somebody that should have said to him, "You're taking that too far."
As soon as they said it, the media were rubbing their hands, weren't they?
See if you're a PR, if you're a PR guy, you go, Toby, shut it. Don't say the same thing in the written press, will you?
But you've got to be positive, you've got to have belief. But I mean, I think Rangers are so far ahead now. I think if Hearts had a better start to the season, and the Europe thing was out the road, they might have been a wee bit closer. But I just don't see in the long term them ever splitting Celtic or Rangers.
Well, the other thing I was going to say to you is, I don't know what's happening in Edinburgh at the moment. I'm going to have to go through and have a look and see if there's something in the water. If Lee Johnson sometimes comes up with some mental lines in a press conference, here's Robbie Nielsen's take on the draw.
It was 10 passes a goal. We'd have won probably 10-0, but ultimately it's about getting shots at goal. We were too deep, passing it back to Xander all the time, allows him to presses. Second half we were a lot higher and we actually managed to penetrate them.
Okay, 10 passes a goal.
To be fair, you don't know if he's done that. You do that as a training drill. You do a possession drill, 8v8 or 10v10, 6 passes a goal, 10 passes a goal. But if you've no end product, doesn't matter how many passes you've got. And I understand what he's saying there, because they probably do that in training. But the second half they went more direct and they started to get shots and attempts at goal and got the goal from Snodgrass.
Should they have had more?
Yeah, I thought they could have. They could have nicked it towards the end. I thought they were the dominant team towards the end of the game for the highlights that I've seen. But I think that's not a bad point. I think St Mirren are good this season, particularly at home. I think St Mirren will be pushing for the top 6. So don't think that's a bad point for Hearts.
Yeah, well, I was going to say that Stephen Robinson is. It tells you how far St Mirren have come on. Not happy with the point.
It shows we've come a long way when we're disappointed not to beat a team of that calibre. With the money spent and the resources they have, not to come away with 3 points, I think before everybody's happy with a point against Hearts, but we feel a little bit aggrieved today. Injuries and suspensions are starting to mount up.
Well, they got a good free kick. Ryan Strain took a little nick, I have to say, in the deflection, Ruffy, but the equaliser from Snodgrass, I don't think he's committing himself to staying long term because his wife and his family are not there, but if they could keep him for another year, I think Snodgrass would be superb for them.
Yeah, he's got something a wee bit different for everybody else. He's played in a better quality league for most of his career. He is a wee bit sharper. He sees things better than other people. I know he just threw that ball into the box, but it was a ball into the box with pace.
What would you have done with the Ruffy as a goalkeeper? Because would you have shouted, "Look, Gordon McQueen headed away"?
Gordon McQueen would have headed that away. I can assure you. But no, once it comes over 2 or 3 defenders, you're left late. You're reacting late to it, and it was whipped. It was a pretty whipped free kick to say that. But no, that's got to be. The defence has got to clear that.
Yeah, okay. Now they're going to bring in Garang Kuhl from Newcastle. I think that's a great chance for Hearts to get someone who, if Newcastle United are signing him and giving him out on loan, he's going to be, I would suggest, a good standard.
Yeah, he's only 18 years old. He played in the World Cup. He's unlucky not to get an equaliser against Argentina. Plus, I think the big thing for him is I think there's 3 Australian players already there. Yeah. So that could be good. It could be kind of cool in the gang.
Yeah. Oh God, that's unbelievable. By the way, I'm trying to measure. What we'll do is, over the course of the season, Ruffy, we will put together a montage of the everyone that he's managed to fire in, and then work out the worst one. But Cool in the Gang is dreadful. Marcus Fraser, red card. He looks as if he vaulted one of the players.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he'll be disappointed with that.
Yeah,
when he sees it back.
I must admit, I was surprised he got the red card, Fraser. Yeah. So, I think he was trying to say he leapt over the player to get then checked
over the player, then it was here.
I thought it was a stone cold red card. Surely it's a red card.
Okay. I'd have been saying to the ref, "Come on, I'm trying to get out of the way."
Take that.
I'm trying to think of the maddest challenge I've ever seen. You know, when somebody just puts the boot in. I think Graham Souness against Steaua Bucharest.
The one in George McCluskey. Aye, the one in George McCluskey.
No, I mean George McCluskey's one, but the one in Steaua Bucharest is in the middle of the park.
Eric Cantona had a couple. Eric Cantona had a few. Not talking about one in the crowd.
1999 game, the shame game, Vidar Recess.
Yes, that was another.
Just launched.
He lost the plot actually.
Launched and he never even waited for the card. He untucked his shirt and walked off.
Yeah, there are occasions when you actually know you just don't bother looking for the card. But I remember Graham Souness's, because he was in the middle of the park and he just I think the guy had to check his family allowance at the end of it. Graham just gave him the message. But okay, I'll stand corrected on that. Here's the Premier League table to see how it all pans out after those games. And at the bottom end, you could throw a blanket over 4 of the clubs easily: Kilmarnock, Motherwell, Dundee United and Ross County. Ross County don't want to get that extended, Ruffy. If they're cut off, that would be a nightmare.
Well, it's Motherwell, Ross County the weekend.
Yes.
You know, so whichever one of them comes out of that, you know, the other 2 are going to be panicking a wee bit if they don't take anything out of their games, if they're playing, that is. Because certainly, you know, it's getting really tight, the pressure's mounting. We see when pressure mounts, some owners, you know, tend to panic a wee bit, you know, and it'll be interesting to see which one of them's hold firm if it goes against them.
Yeah, looking at the third there, Ruffy, who's finishing third for you?
I still think Dundee United will dig themselves out of that.
What, finish third?
Yeah, I think Motherwell and...
Third in the table?
No, I thought you meant third bottom. The Hearts for me.
Hearts?
Oh, Hearts are the only team that are showing any reality.
Some run done, they ain't got to go in, by the way.
That's what you call
They're getting Ronaldo on loan.
It's just a super season. That's better than Lee Johnson's.
I thought you were talking about the bottom.
No, the top 3.
Hearts for me, yeah.
Yeah?
Definitely.
Ali?
As he says with his maroon jumper on.
I think just now your money would be in Hearts. I think Aberdeen might put them under a bit of pressure for it, depending on what they do in the window. I think obviously Aberdeen have been particularly poor since the World Cup break and since coming back, but I think they would have ambitions of catching them. At the minute, I think it's Hearts' position to lose.
Yeah, I can't see anyone stopping them.
Yep,
okay. We're sticking with that. The predictor table, let's have a look and see how it all panned out. Over the weekend, the points, it's Ruffy who had a good weekend. 182, plays myself in 172. Tammy McManus is on 167, closing in. Alison McConnell managed to leapfrog Tam Cowan. She's in 152. And then it's Tam Cowan on 150 and Hugh McDonald on 126. So, Alison, last year's championship is but a memory now, as you probably have just found your level.
I've made a January signing. I've brought in the boy to help me.
Oh yeah,
get me out of my current predicament. It's a bit of beginner's luck there at the weekend.
Yeah,
so,
Joe's doing okay.
Is that how I picked them? There you go. You better keep picking them.
Keep your son.
He's worrying the Xbox is going up for sale if I finish bottom.
Well, it's interesting, Ruffy, but Hugh, I want Hugh to make a go of it.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's interesting you've changed the rules at the bottom 2 play each other at the end. You know.
Scottish Cup final prediction.
That would be absolutely fantastic. Okay, don't forget, we always mention this as well. If you are engaging with us on our feed, try and keep it decent, because we pride ourselves in the fact that the majority of people who actually engage with us on our feed on YouTube are absolutely, top draw. They love their football, they love their clubs, they like to comment, and if it becomes abusive, we do actually try and ban anyone who just steps over the edge of it. And as we said in 2022 and we say in 2023, sometimes this is just not the show for you. There are great, I love saying that term, only to take the moral high ground, because there are other places where you can actually go to delve into the gutter.
There's fan sites and different things, but not on this show.
Yeah, absolutely. So, with that in mind, I must say good luck to Marvin Bartley. He's taking on the job as the manager of Queen of the South. It's sooner or later somebody has to take the plunge to see if they can cut it as a manager.
Yeah, he's obviously decided that he's enjoyed doing his apprenticeship, if you like, with David Martindale at Livingston. Then there's an opportunity to come up to go and be your own man. I think some people are probably quite happy coaching and staying in the background, but I think if you've got any ambitions at all of being a number one, it makes sense to start at a club maybe like Queen of the South and just ease your way into it rather than being front and centre in the spotlight immediately. I think it will just give him an opportunity to see how he finds it and see where it goes.
Yeah, and as I always mention on here, we don't mind banter and getting absolutely battered. We can take that, Ruffy. We can take the criticism of people not liking us. And Hugh Scott says, Peter, I said it before, second season syndrome for Alison in the Predictor. And I think you're right, Hugh. It's absolutely second season.
Everyone, we're only halfway.
Flashing the plan.
And I have to tell you, by the way, the trophy for this year is humongous. It's giant.
It's not the wee crap one. I'd go for a $5.
Yeah, for Ali. But hey, shush.
Shambles.
That's Ali's first ever trophy she's won in her life. She's absolutely.
It's a football trophy with a guy playing bowls at top of it.
Let's hope you've packed it.
I've kept that.
Yeah, absolutely. So now, let's just quickly talk about a couple of things before we fire out the competition again. We always like to watch the FA Cup. I don't know about you, Ruffy, but there's a period in time where, from Scottish Cups from about 1970 up until about maybe 1994, 95, if you're a kid, you could rhyme them off who was in the final and who actually won. Were you that type of person, or is it just me being a complete geek?
No, the English FA Cup was the biggest cup in England. You know, it was one everybody wanted to win, but
it's not got the same.
No, obviously
appeal
European. The big teams aren't putting out a full strength team. I'm not saying them all, but the majority of them try to tamper with, you know, what they've got next weekend. If they've got a midweek game and a league game, and they tamper with their team. And I always say, if they tamper with their team, then hell mend them. You know, if they want an extended run, you know, to get to a final of the biggest competition down in England for me, obviously apart from the league, cup-wise, I mean, you want to win it, you've got to think of your supporters. Like, your supporters are travelling year in, year out. They want to get to finals. They want to be in every final, whether it's a small cup or not. And once you get to a final and you win it, you can see the celebration. It's there, and you can see the supporters who maybe weren't supporting that team for 2-3 years, and you get to a final and all of a sudden there's another 10,000 that you'd never seen before. So you've got to take these things into consideration as well. So for me, it's, if they don't play their full side, then they deserve everything they get.
I think the main one for me was Newcastle. You know, Newcastle no won a trophy in 60 odd years, and they're sitting in third at the minute. Obviously they're wanting to finish in the top four. They played a weekend team away to Sheffield Wednesday and get put out. Their supporters are desperate for silverware, and I thought that was poor from Eddie Howe. Took obviously a lot of praise, but I think he'll get heavily criticised for that team that he put out against Sheffield Wednesday when Newcastle have not won and they're desperate to win a trophy.
Well, I agree with you. I think Newcastle are one of those sides that should have looked at it and said, listen, we win an FA Cup. I mean, that is I think the last time Newcastle were in an FA Cup final was 1974, and Liverpool spanked them. So you're looking at a club that was craving a day like that. Can you imagine they won that, Ali, and then everybody goes absolutely mental for the next season and the assault on the league. And remember, winning the league's not a shoo-in, even if you've got a Saudi Arabian state backing you.
Absolutely. No, I agree 100% with all of that. I think it really cheapens the competition too. I think it tarnishes the image of the FA Cup, which for so long was such a prestigious trophy to win. I think I can't understand it. I think it's one game. You know, that going out and fielding a weakened team, I think it's very disrespectful to the opponents. I think it just shows a real complacency there. And also I think it just shows a disregard for the club support and the historical aspects of the club and how long they've gone without winning anything.
Yeah. They all play weekend teams, but I'll tell you right now, see if they took a Champions League spot out the league, absolutely, the fourth, and gave it to the winners of the FA Cup, they'll play the strongest team.
Yeah, well, I would like to take the fourth position from England and give it to Scotland, to be perfectly honest with you, because I think the whole thing is totally and utterly in favour of the five big countries, and it's bang out of order.
Always will be.
Yeah, absolutely. John says the FA Cup is not valued by top teams. It's all about the English Premier League and the Champions League. And John, you're 100% correct, but I'll tell you, I loved seeing the boys' face for Stevenage scoring that winner and knocking Aston Villa out. That's what a cup competition's all about, isn't it, Ruffy?
Well, if you're in a small club and you get a chance to beat one of the bigger ones, it is a memorable occasion. It's as if you've won the cup final when people don't expect you to win it, you know, and you, like everything else, you're remembered for a long, long time.
Yeah, and Wrexham, it's great when you've got a movie star tweet. I mean, just one tweet from Ryan Reynolds. I don't know if you're a fan of Ryan Reynolds, but I do like to see him in a movie. Is that wrong, Ali?
I don't know, Peter.
Do you like that, Ryan Reynolds?
And what it said?
Just as an actor, calm your tits. I don't want to get you in trouble with your husband. I just said, do you like to see Ryan Reynolds in a movie? He's fine. Yeah, well, I'm just saying, he puts out the tweet, the joy of it all, you know, the cup, Wrexham, amazing, the whole thing. 4-3, not Coventry out. They're a non-league side, remember?
They are, but they're obviously investing heavily in the team. I think that they'll possibly get out of the conference and into League 2 this season. This season. So great result for Scott Brown as well. Spoke to him yesterday. He was watching the Hibs game, and he says he's sick of beating Rangers, and that was Queen's Park this time.
Yeah.
That was his text.
That was his line. Yeah. But to be perfectly honest with you, I don't know what's going on. He's suddenly growing his hair back.
He has grown it. I don't know what he's doing. I think he's trying to, you know, be more affable, I think, off the pitch, and mature and growing his hair. But
where did the Ryan Porteous wee hairdo come from? That's a wee bit of a
the wee curly thing,
wee burly, just a wee buffon at the top.
It's a style on it, off it.
Is it?
Yeah.
The gel, no, it's still going, is it?
Anyway, it was a good result for Fleetwood.
It was back to back. You know, I speak to Scott a lot, and I think they've had so many draws this season. They draw Kings in England, but they've got back to back wins, and that'll be a boost for them. Beating QPR.
Yeah. DPG says Alison seems to be blushing. Well, not be the first or the last time. We've all blushed on this show. At least Alison isn't backtracking, which is what's happened on this show today with reversing and quickly as well.
We were talking about TV things before we come on, and she says she can't wait for the Chippendales thing. You know, the history of that.
The Chippendales. they were in business about 30 years ago.
You need to help.
Oh, there's a thing there.
No, there's actually, I know, I did see that. There's
I saw that as well.
Well done, Alex. There's still life in the old dog yet. I don't mean that. I don't mean that. That's it. Honestly. That's it. Anyway, what do you think, Ryan Reynolds? Just before we shut it, just before we go, here's a chance to enter the competition, because it's a Rangers top and the Europa League final programme that I promised you.
This is your chance to win this replica Rangers jersey from the 2021-22 season, along with the matchday programme from the Europa League final against Eintracht Frankfurt. To win this fantastic prize, all you have to do is answer this simple question. Which Rangers player scored in the 2022 Europa League final? Post your answer in the comments section below. If you want to double your chances of winning, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Good luck.
Oh, proud moment for wee Adam there with the Rangers stuff, isn't he?
Yeah.
Staunch wee Adam. Are you going to get him to do the Celtic stuff or not?
Yes. Is there any chance you can not out him? He's one of our reporters trying to make a name for himself. Anyway, thanks to everyone who's in the feed who's putting in their answer. If you hit the subscribe button, you've got double the chance of winning in there, because now we're going to give you lots of chances to win some great prizes. We have that competition will run over the course of this week. It's on our Facebook page as well. We did mention to you that there's two League Cup semi-finals coming up, one of them Rangers against Aberdeen. The quiz question was, Rangers against Aberdeen, which Scottish player scored the winner the last time these two met in the League Cup? Ruffy?
Can I tell, if I have a guess at the goalkeeper first, I'll get the goal scorer.
Well,
was the goalkeeper Jim Stewart?
Well, hold on. We're not going to say who's the goal. Who's the scorer?
I'm going to go Neil Cooper.
Neil Cooper. Neil Cooper.
Neil Cooper.
It said it was recent. It said it was recent.
You said a long time ago.
Oh, well, it was a wee while ago, but I'm talking maybe a couple of years.
2 years?
Yeah.
Oh, when you say a wee while ago, for me that's like 30 years.
What, Ali, you want to have a go at
I've
it?
not got a clue.
All right.
I honestly don't.
I think you're
Lewis Ferguson.
Lewis Ferguson, thank you.
Oh, I thought it was.
Father of God, man. This programme is unbelievable.
The blast for the blast.
Yeah, so thanks very much for taking a stab at the quiz. I know, exactly. Thanks for taking a stab at the quiz question. But the competition, well worthy of it if you're a Rangers fan out there and you win the top and the programme as well, because I think a lot of people quite rightly look at the run to Seville for Rangers as, okay, it didn't work out in the end, but it's something that a lot of fans remember all the great games along the way. So a lot of people frame the programme with a shirt and some photographs and memories.
It's a great prize for someone. As I said, it's not every season that Celtic Rangers get into the final of European competition, so it might be a while before they get into the next one. So that's great for any Rangers supporter and any collector in general of football memorabilia.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, join us if you can tomorrow. Tam Cowan and Richard Foster is back in the team. He's been re-signed. Can he recapture the magic, or will Ruffy absolutely batter him from pillar to post? Only time will tell on that. Thanks very much.
Get a man jumper on tomorrow.
Yeah.
As long as he doesn't park that Ferrari out there again.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if he does, it'll be up in bricks, let me tell you. Thanks to Ruffy. Thanks to, of course, Tammy Manis, and of course, Ali. Good luck with a big move. We're so glad we're not moving house with you. But she'll be back next Monday, fighting fit. From myself, Peter Martin, to you, don't forget, hit the subscribe button, enter the competition as well, and we'll see you tomorrow.